It's Sunday, the 11th of June, around 20 before 2. In 1.5 hours, I'm going to pick up some leftovers from a bakery, which 2 hours later I will distribute to people who are appreciating it because they have a tight budget, like me. I'm not complaining. I'm getting enough support from the Swiss people via the government. As I said yesterday, I would be willing to give it all up, all this money I get from the government, if the government would step down. That would be my offering. I would become a self-sustaining vegan farmer if they would give me some 500 square meter land where I can build a house on it or hut with materials I find in the woods and do some vegan farming. If the nation state does change its law, what allows for a single community, for a village, for a city, to step out of the nation state, to quit its membership. That would be one condition. Or if a village would just do it by themselves without having the permission. Why do they need a permission, actually, you know? Local villagers, people who have locally a community, don't need any permission of a nation state. Even if they have given before the permissions, or even if they are still now contributing via taxes to or via providing young people to the army, to the nation state, they can just one day decide that they don't no longer want to be part of this nation state, and then they can declare themselves independent. So if a village where I live, or where I would be allowed to live, who would take me up as a member, if such a village would be independent and sovereign, I would do that. I would, if they don't ask taxes of the people, that's important. No, not asking taxes and being sovereign. Those are two important parts of the future. Every local village needs to be able to become sovereign, either by declaring themselves sovereign or the nation state making a law allowing communities to step out of nation states. Yes, I would offer that as my contribution. So, and then also yesterday I was talking and writing about a possible ascende utopia timeline, storyline, where Ascende, Perma, Nurum Leao and Luan Che would live together, each one on her own patch of 500 square meter, but together they would have 2,000 square meters. And some of the stuff they would do together, like, for example, 2 or 3 or 4 of them would grow carrots together, or potatoes or onions. They would do some gardens together. They would perhaps have one tool shed where they store the tools they either produce themselves or get donated by others in this free village. So I can a little bit try to dive into that before I hopefully not forget to think back to Manusha and Luamsh, Li Limusha, or I don't know her girlfriend, the two lesbians, girlfriends' names. hmm So I'm reluctant to go and read back my stuff sometimes. Like today, I'm really reluctant. So I might as well go a little bit into this no-tech future. Okay, Ascende, Nurumleau, and Perma and Luanche were living together in a village what has freed itself from the nation state it formerly was a member of. One day in 2019, the villagers came together to vote, and 95% of the people in the village were wanting to leave the nation state, wanting to decide their own fate. So they just wrote a letter to the nation state where they told them that from now on they will contribute no more taxes, they will ask for no more protection, military and police protection, and they will also not contribute anything towards the nation infrastructure. The roads would be open to anyone passing through or wanting to come visit as tourist or as a business person or as a student or as however. The roads would be open, the village would be open for trade and business and all kinds of normal exchange of people. But no more taxes would go to the nation state, and the village was independent. So people were mostly happy to have not to pay taxes anymore, like 10 to 20 to 30% of income previously got taken with taxes to pay for sick members and military and street and administration and schools and stuff and stuff and stuff. So the villagers of this particular village, which was one of hundred thousands of villages which did that kind of, and cities all over the world which did that to their nation states. They just said bye-bye. They didn't wait for laws to be passed to allow the villages or cities to quit. They just did it. It was contagious, like one village heard from another one who did it, and then the third one heard from the other two, and it spread like wildfire. The idea of not having to wait for a nation state's permission to quit. So they just quit. But I don't want to concentrate. No, in this story is about Ascende and his friends living together with no technology at all. No technology, no electricity, no computers, no machines except for digging tools and agriculture tools and axe and hammer to build a thing, to build or a loom, a hand loom, to build a house, to make clothes, to grow food. The objective of this utopia, what is painted right here in this audio book, the objective here is to paint this picture of a no-tech future utopian sovereign village. It needs no internet, it needs no blockchain, it needs no computers, it needs no robots, it needs no petrol burning, it needs no diesel burning, it needs no solar panels. It just needs people who are willing to live a simple life. Of course, one could argue that the burning of wood, the killing of trees for firewood purpose, is a much more harmful practice than heating with solar panel energy or passive solar heating, or I don't know, but LNR, low energy nuclear reactions. I think, no, not I, or the narrator thinks that there is still metals involved with low energy nuclear reactions, and metals need mining, but yes, perhaps the stuff which is already mined will last for a long time. If humanity would use the metals which are already mined out of the ground to power their energy needs. But what I'm talking here about the no-tech utopia. This no-tech utopia has no electricity, but there is killing of trees and sometimes killing of deers and of wild animals. In the cases where the harvest, the vegetable harvest, the grain harvest is not, or the linen, the flaxseed harvest, hemp harvest is not good enough to sustain people through the winter. So eventually, in this no-tech utopia, there would be killing of trees and animals for fire making and for to survive times where there is not enough plant food. So that is the disadvantage of a no-tech future. A tech future, what is gentle and is concerned with using as less electricity as possible, at the least electricity as possible, has this killing of animals and trees not, can overcome these necessities or quasi-necessities. But let's paint also a picture where Ascende, Nurmleau, Perma and Luanche are so nicely living together, so harmoniously living together, that in the winter time, when there is minus 10 degrees, they would spend a lot of time inside. inside the hut, which is well isolated, and only sometimes make fire, but most of the times they would cuddle together and meditate and dream. They would eat perhaps once a day some tiny amount of food. They would not need meat, or they were happy with let's say 100 grams of grains a day, made into flour and made into some kind of chapati, and some vegetables, some 100 gram or 200 gram or 300 gram vegetables, and some fruits. And so with preserves they had from the summer, either dried or put into jars, which they got donated by the other villagers who had more stuff than them. Because Ascende, Nurumleao, Perma and Luanche had not much money, but actually Luanche had the most, because he was a professor of biology before at the Beijing at the Beijing University, before he defected from China and went together with Nurumleao, which also was a teaching person at the same university. I think he was professor of biology and she was I forget. She was in herbs. Yeah, she was a professor of herbs and herbal traditional medicines of all over the world. She was studying the appliance of and teaching the appliance of herbs in local cultures, tribal or indigenous cultures, from many cultures. Yes, so they too had finances. They had about how to say, I think the narrator thinks they had around 200,000 together, each one 100,000 savings. Ascende and Perma had nothing. I mean, perhaps they had 5,000. Not even. They had not even 5,000 in their possessions. So together they got a little more than 200,000. With what they went to one of the villages which were recently having declared itself free and independent of a nation state. They were going there and offering the people for 200,000 to lease a patch of 2,000 square meters for the next 50 years. They were agreeing, this group of Ascende, Perma, Nurumleao and Luanche. Out of the two storylines I have written into this Ascende, Perma and the membranes line, they were representatives of these two lines, and they wanted to try a no-tech life. So they looked for one of the villages which were living without technology, without internet, without computers, without robots. Some of the people in the villages had tractors and much more land than 500 square meter per person. They had 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 square meters of land, or even more. 1,000,000 square meters some. So for them it was a good deal to take these 200,000 and to grant a lease for 50 years. Even the community was 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 guaranteeing the four that they would have the right to stay on this patch for 99 years, because they have so greatly they have paid such a high price for the 2,000 square meters. Of course, in a different timeline, a more social, a more more social timeline, the villages would have invited people from all over the globe to come and share some land, because they wanted to share their blessing of being sovereign now and independent, of having no internet, of having of living a low to earth and simple life. So that would be more social. They wouldn't need money to buy themselves into such a village. They would just be donated. So it doesn't matter actually which one it's really happening in this story. Either bought in or being invited. For example, being invited because Ascende has written so much about possibilities, how a village could become sovereign. So somehow as a thank you. Yeah, that's a nice... Okay, let's go with that. One of these villages, which has themselves freed from the nation state and were interested to live a life without technology as much as possible, to further the evolution of its members. One of these villages was inviting Ascende and Perma and Nurum Leao and Luanche, because some members of their village have read of Ascende's stories, and they thought, yes, these people have inspired us. Ascende has inspired us with his writings. Let's invite him and his friends to live with us. Let's give them some land where they can try out the no-tech utopian spiritual evolving. So Ascende heard the call and emailed to Nurum Leao. Hey, Nurum Leao, I just got this invitation from a village what has freed itself from nation state. They don't ask the people to pay taxes anymore. They are ready to give me 2,000 square meters of land where I can stay on it for the next 99 years, and I can build whatever I want on it, and can take 3 friends with me. How about you and Luan Che joining me and Perma in this endeavor, in this journey? Nurum Leao responded quite soon, like she was receiving the email during one of her classes where she taught herbal medicine, and that in the pause between this and another class, she emailed back and responded, yes, that's a good idea. We like that. I'm sure I will talk to Luan Che, but I'm sure he likes it too. We have now, Liu Hanche and me have now spent the last 20 years in this university in Beijing, and we have influenced quite a lot of people for the good, and but still it hasn't changed so much. People who were intelligent enough were defecting from the Communist Party ruled China and were living abroad. So we might also give up the fight at home or the secret infiltration, because we were actually mostly um, doing our science thing and just occasionally tell students privately that we think democracy is better than one party system. So yes, we would like to come, I'm sure. Liu She will come too, and then we can go for the meditative next 50 years. We are now 40. I think you are 42, Ascende. 42. You are 42 too. So, oh no, Ascende will be 44 in 2019, where this story is happening. Somehow, fantasy, like. Yes, and not long after that, like 2 hours later, Liu She was responding to Ascende. Hey Ascende, that's cool. I'm with it. I'm with you. I'm with you guys. We're going to do that. I'm tired of this one-party communist regime. I hope it breaks apart soon, but I think I have done enough. I can come with you to experience some meditative vegan farming. I had 20 years of internet now. It's good. I think I saw the possibilities, and robots I don't have to see actually. I know they will be wonderful and they will be assisting humanity, and many car accidents will not happen thanks to autonomous driving. The artificial intelligence will do a wonderful job, I'm sure. But I'm very much interested to find my way home to God, to the universal cosmic source, via meditation and conscious living without technology. I think that's possible. As I learned from you, Ascender, I read your stuff, and yes, let's do it. We will be ready in 1 month. In 1 month we come. Perhaps you can also prepare some of it. You can already start with Perma. So Ascende was replying to Liu She. Yes, we will forward your emails to the villagers, and when they are happy with how you look at it, and if they all accept us, then we will start. So looking forward to see you guys in a month. After that, he was talking to Perma again. He was already before he, actually she was the first person he told from the invitation he got of a free village to join them. to donate them 2,000 square meters for them 4 to come. She was agreeing instantly because she was looking forward to this for a long time. As for her background, she was a I don't know. I haven't talked about perma so much. She was doing permaculture. But where? She was perhaps, she was also 50 or 40 or 30. I don't know, I have difficulty to define perma. Yes, okay, no problem. Let's leave that out for a moment. Just saying, Perma 2 was coming in 2019, and so they were just starting. Now comes all this building of house, like they went, the two of them, Perma and Ascende, went into forest. They picked up this branch, that fallen tree. They got donated some. The villagers were all happy with the emails, and were saying, yes, you go there. There is 2,000. This patch there over there. There's 2,000 square meters of land. You can go into the forest, so everywhere you want. You can pick up stuff. And if you are cold in the winter, we will give you some firewood. We will bring you firewood. If you need food, you ask us. We will give you food. We have also some tools which we don't use anymore. You can have them. We are very honored to have you with us. And if we might visit you sometimes to get a whiff of how you live, to learn from you, that would be wonderful. Ascende and Perma were so happy to have such generous hosts who were even interested in coming to visit them and to profit from their experiences. So they went there some days later after they got their first emails and started to gather wood, firewood, wood to build with, branches. They had a tent with them, and it was April. It was somewhere in France or Spain or Switzerland or Portugal or Denmark or Germany or Austria or Italy, somewhere in Europe, or Canary Island or England or Belgium or Holland or Russia or Greece or Bulgaria. Yeah, I think it's just all the countries would be possible. All these countries would be possible for Ascende to go there. I think so. The narrator, which has somehow a relationship to Ascende, which makes it difficult sometimes to define certain things because of the possibility that this life will be a future life of the author. It's not always easy to be bold and brave and courageous, to think of all the changes in life, what would happen. the author is also weak, and he is also conditioned to receiving every month a sufficient amount of money to pay an apartment, rent of an apartment, and to buy food. So he didn't have to suffer under a boss. But yes, I think he would be ready in 2 years. Now it's 2017, and I think in 2 years, if a village would ask him, perhaps he would be ready. Perhaps. I think so. It should be possible. Or perhaps in 4 years. I don't know. Perhaps this ascende perhaps would need 4 years. Or this Andreas perhaps needs another 4 or 5 years or 6 years or 10 years, or I don't know. Makes me miserable to think of how limited I am. But I don't know, perhaps that's just a lack of imagination for my own life. So that's why I try to make figures and characters. I invent characters who are more bold than me, who are more courageous, more experimental, more serious than me, who are better researchers, better dancers, and that's okay, you know. I try to pull myself forward by inventing stories. So yeah, let's go back to the story. Let me go back to the story, where they started to gather wood from the forest, and they brought with them some 100 kilo of grains, oat and rye and wheat, dinkel, emmer, like old forms of wheat. They brought with them potato to start growing, and all kinds of seeds, tomato seeds, paprika, beetroot, onion, carrots, garlic, the linseeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, cannabis seeds. And so in the first time they both went for wood, ascende and perma. Wood. Just everything what was in what they could find when they could transport on their backs. They would carry out of the wood into the patch. Then Ascende brought with him also some tools, which he bought from his government pension, because of invalid sickness pension, because he had a problem with authorities. He couldn't stand bosses. He wouldn't accept bosses. He would get angry and mad inside himself, and that would make him depressions. That's how. And Perma was she was working on things, on permaculture farms before, not for money, but she was bringing with from these farms. She was bringing with some tools and some gardening tools and some seeds. So Ascende brought a tent and some wood carving tools, some rope, some seeds. So, and he bought also some of the food, which they stored in wooden. No, not wooden. Yeah, they stored in kind of canisters, perhaps metal canisters or plastic canisters, in the earth. They were allowed to dig in the earth from the villages. They had the allowance to build as high as they wanted and to build as low as they wanted, with the only limitation that it shouldn't influence the surrounding area too much, except for giving shadow if they made a really big house, a high house. Or but they wouldn't wanted to make they wanted just to make single story houses, perhaps 100 square meter per person. So they planned Ascende and Perma and Nurum Leao and Luanche were emailing a little bit before, and were just thinking about each one having two houses or one house each for 100 square meter maximum. So they would still have 1600 square meters to farm on it, vegan farm on it, vegetable, and they would make some trees, or plant some trees, apple and peach and poire, means birnen. Don't know the word for birnen in English. Anyway, all kind of fruits which were in Europe, were growing in Europe. They would plant fruit trees. So the tools they brought with, food they brought with, so it would last for one winter at least. They calculated they would perhaps have to buy some firewood, or they would have to ask for the community to donate them some firewood. But they also gathered from the forest, which was adjoining to the 2,000 square meter thing. It was a big forest. It was like 10 square miles. 10 square mile forest, which was open to the four. Also, Perma, in the first days and weeks, she went a lot to gather fruits and to find this or that herb. She enjoyed being in the wild nature, and she was really happy with this place. And she knew she would spend a lot of time in the wild area, doing her part of garden work and helping Ascende to build house. But she would also spend a lot of time on her own, or perhaps with Ascende, or with Nurum Leao, or with Luyanche in these woods. So the two were gathering wood. They stacked it up neatly at the place where they made a roof over, so the wood would stay dry for the next winter. They lived in a tent, and slowly started building with the fallen trees they found. Some like Ascende wanted for himself a round house, so he placed around 10 or 12 logs, which were around 3 meters high. He placed them in a circle which had a diameter of around 70 square meters. No, that's too much. Perhaps diameter of 40 to 50. No, perhaps better 30. 30 square meters is big enough, because the bigger the diameter, the bigger the roof, and the roof is the problem. So Ascende took trees which were fallen, which had a diameter of around 10 to 20. 10 to 20, perhaps more 20. 20 centimeters diameter. So he put 10 or 12 in a circle of this 3 meter high, 20 centimeters diameter, wide poles. In the middle of the house, he put a 5 meter thing, which he had to ask one of the farmer's neighbors to carry with his tractor near to the land where they lived, and the rest of the rest of the 50 or 100 meters they would carry it. But that was not possible. Perhaps they needed more people. They would need 6 people perhaps to carry such a log, a 5 meter high log or a 4 meter high log. I'm not sure. I haven't painted this house. The narrator hasn't painted this house, but he knows how it looks. So there's 10 to 12 3 meter high poles which one person can carry. 20 centimeter or 10 to perhaps also not. Perhaps also here Ascende needed Perma to carry these poles from the wood into the patch where he wanted to build his house. So, and then it needed another 10, now think of it, 30, I said 30 diameter. So the connection between the middle pole and the outside poles, 10 or 12 connections, would also need a 15 meter. Oh, that was too much. So there will be 2 rings. No, 3 rings. 3 rings would have to be built with another 10 to 12 poles. That would make around 10 outside, 12 outside, 10 inside, another 10 inside, another 7 inside, another 5 inside. Yeah, one could play with this. I mean, each ring would have less poles, and from the outer ring 2 poles would connect with 1 pole in the next inner ring via two poles laying on top of the horizontal poles and being nailed or bound or carved into each other. Perhaps carved into each other is the best. But yeah, some nails and rope perhaps too. Some wooden nails. One can make wooden nails. And one can have hemp rope to fortify the connections. So perhaps the inner rings, the 3 inner rings, were altogether 10, the outer ring 12, then 10, then 8, then 6. 12, 10 gives 22, plus 8 gives 30, plus 6 gives 36. So 36 poles, 3 meters high, 20 centimeter diameter wide would be needed, with another same amount of poles lying on top of them to connect each other. So when we have 30 diameter of the house, then a radius would be 15 meters. Well, that would mean each pole would have to be 5 meters. With three rings, it would have to be 5 meters long. Another problem because of transport. So there would have to be some time together with Perma and Ascende, and perhaps even some other villages, to transport these logs. But perhaps also Ascende would accept or would buy or even would ask some farmers to bring, and he would pay, or he would work with them for a day or two to pay this off. Yeah, that is the basic frame. Now, what to put on top? The walls are easy, you know. The walls are like, you take some earth, put it in bags of linen, like jute sack, of not fine linen, but yeah. Perhaps, and like this, you build the walls, or you take clay, you dig out clay to make the cellar, like from under the house or beside the house. That's always the question, no? Because if one makes it under the house, then one would have to construct a floor board, which also needs a lot of wood again. And yeah, one is not sure. Perhaps it's better to. There was to live directly on the floor. My alarm is going, so I should get moving. But I think that went pretty well. Or to fortify, yeah. Floor so they were in clay. July, September. They were. Perhaps it's better to make it wood. Finishing also fall wood. July, September. No, July, August. But also for all this July and August, they were end of August 2019. The help of villagers. 4 of them had finished with the tractors and with build big machines and robots, perhaps. Fall wood or house. He would wait till Nurum Leao and Luamche come 1 month later. Yes, like this. Let's do it like this. So the 4 of them didn't need so much poles. Eventually they were much quicker. Spending because they started to make a good bags 3 months and to gather all this important, perhaps. hundreds of poles,
they dig out
or
bags
gather enough
and they got
wood
straw which
to
they
make
could fill
hundreds of poles.
the
Perhaps they also could
clay and the
fabricate
earth
the tool, the poles.
no, not
I think straw
with
doesn't mix
some,
well with earth, but with clay it can mix. If it's nicely mixed together. Don't know about this. Coal. I think we glue.
they shouldn't
But glue is
take
also
cow shit
how
or
you
horse
can make
shit
a
and
natural
stuff.
glue without killing
should
an
be a
animal.
vegan house.
So if they could find a natural way of making glue out of a
But perhaps
plant,
they have to use
then
some of this
they could glue together some
horse
smaller
manure or
poles,
cow
and they
manure
wouldn't
or
need
pig
any
manure.
tractors. And
No, I think horse and
so
cow
if
is possible. No pig.
Perma and Nurmleau would find, thanks to their herbal
Yes.
knowledges, if they would find a plant
let's
to
say
make glue out of, they could glue
in September
pieces together. So they wouldn't
they
need
started
the help of villagers
to finish
to
the
transport
houses with the
long
roofs.
poles out of the wood,
They
or
collected
even
branches
so basically,
which were fallen
all
down,
of them, all the four,
and
were
they cut off
agreeing
some.
on
I
the
don't know
hobbit
about
house
that.
design.
Perhaps they
Like
used
they each wanted to
green
have
ones,
a 30 diameter
which were
round
cut
house.
off by
The first house.
villagers who
They
did
would,
fell trees
of course,
for
build their
firewood.
own little shed
And
for.
they didn't use the branches,
like just
or
to,
they left it to them,
prove to themselves that
because
they can build their own house.
they
But
asked them
the
if
four
they can use
big
that
houses,
as
the
a
living
building,
houses,
perhaps.
were built together.
But then perhaps it's not needed.
So they spent around
Perhaps they
3
can
months
buy
gathering fall wood from the 10
bags.
10 square meter miles,
Or they can
to 10
buy
square
empty
kilometer
bags, which they would fill with
big wood.
leaves.
It was a lot of work. They
Possible.
got strong with it, carrying all these logs in for miles and miles.
Eventually they would use.
They got really strong. And they ate a lot. In this time they ate a lot. But they ate healthy. They ate oatmeal, which they pressed themselves.
Buy some reed for manure.
Or perhaps they
bought
bought
money,
some oatmeal.
Liu
Yes, they did,
and
because
Liao brought
Liao and Liu
in Beijing.
were
Perhaps they
wanting
bought some
to
reed,
finish
so to make
the houses in 1 year. So they said,
reed,
okay, let's not concentrate so much on the garden. We can do some gardening, but let's
Surely
concentrate on the houses.
the
first.
author has
So this
has not all of his knowledge.
when they came in
together,
May
and he would, need
2019,
to read up some,
they-
and even they would
Noam Liao, Luanche, Perma, and
They-
Ascende would bring some books with them to concentrate on
which
the
were
building.
explaining how to build naturally with the natural
And it's
materials.
not the earth bags
So I don't need to.
which are the problem, or the clay and
The narrator doesn't need to
straw we buy from
explain all this right
or we
now.
get donated by the villagers.
Out of
It's
his
not the
memory.
walls which are concerning me. Perhaps we need
So-
to
At the end
flechten,
of October, when the first snow came, or when it
use some
when it dropped,
Haselruten,
the temperature
as a,
dropped to 5 degrees.
Weidenruten, or we need
And
some
in
little
November,
bushes
the
to
first
make
snow would come
support
with 0 degrees.
structures.
They
If
were
we go for
having
the free
finished the roof,
clay
and we're
straw
starting
mixing
to
mass, or
to,
we build with bags,
build the insides.
with jute bags, which we buy,
They still had
which is
some money left,
or
and
hemp
some
bags.
food reserves, and they had enough
which we fill with
brought
earth,
with them.
what we dig out from the
They
cellar
did
we are
have,
doing together.
also
We
buy
were
a
also making
stove
one cellar together.
with the chimney, which they would live
The houses
first
were
in
built
the tents. Each one had a tent, or the
Um,
couples had a tent for the two
along
of
the
them.
wild side. Oh no, each one had its own tent, and they sometimes the couples would sleep together in one tent.
Each of the four,
but each one
had
was
his own tent.
a forest lover,
And
they felt they also
that
would,
although they
would
want
sleep
to
together. In the first
live near
cold nights, they
together
would
each
sleep
other,
together,
but they
before
still
they
want
would
to have a possibility
buy some
to-
more to join with the wild nature, also while sleeping.
stove.
So they built their houses.
Would they be able
far
to
from each other, 100
make
meters
their
or
own
200
clay
meters
stoves
apart from each other?
or heaters?
No, let's say we have 2,000 square meters, yeah?
Before
So
this
2,000
winter?
square meters would mean
Perhaps not. Building all the
20
four houses
meters.
and making
No. 50
no,
meters.
I think that
50
has
meters
to wait for the next
wide, 40
year,
meters
for
long.
the next spring. So either
50
they bought
to 40 meters.
stoves,
So-
metal stoves with metal chimneys, or they
If
built
the house has
stoves.
a 30 diameter
and somehow constructed
Yeah,
chimney
that's a 30
out of
diameter.
wood
It's totally
or-
wrong. Then it's already it's possible. Given
Consuming
enough time,
900
square meters.
They even could perhaps I don't know about tar. Tar is
Yes. No, that's square.
inflammable.
30
so
times
tar
30.
is not a good thing to use for
But the round would also need
making
perhaps
a
400.
chimney.
So
a
that's
chimney
already
must
too
be
much. So actually,
stone
the whole
or
calculation was
I
wrong.
don't know about
there.
clay. If it could be clay,
The diameter of the house is not 30
burnt
meter,
earth
but 10.
could be. Yeah,
Yes.
I think that would be possible.
10
There could be a
times
clay
10.
oven.
No. I would have to read up on
No.
this. I'm totally lost here. Yeah, I'm shit with mathematics. How to build
The narrator
an
is
oven
here,
to
we
heat
come
in the
here to a
winter.
dead end.
So they would buy one stove,
Just
one metal stove,
mathematics
with the
enough
idea
for-
that perhaps in
to get
winter
these
or
basic
next
things right.
summer, so
Or next
it's
spring
not
they would
3 rings, or
build
perhaps it's
their
3
own
rings. What the
Clay
diameter of
stoves, and they
the
could
trees are
give it
smaller.
back,
It's
this
only
metal
5
stove, to the
centimeters,
villagers.
which is a pole
Where
strong.
they got it
Pole
from,
needs
they
only
bought
between
it
5
from, or got
centimeters
it donated
strong.
from.
Wide.
So yeah, one can see the first winter, the first summer,
Or
and perhaps 10.
first winter was
Yeah, these things need to be
arriving,
checked out
building
in
houses.
reality, no? Not much
Or in the
gardening
mind.
happened in this time. Not
With
much
planning.
free roaming. They
There
were
was
sharing
all
a
depends
lot
building,
of
building,
building.
light.
Sketches one
and,
can construct.
They managed.
Yes.
They managed to finish all the 4 houses.
So
they were
the
totally
roof,
happy, basically,
building
so that it wouldn't
all
rain in,
stuff
or that the
with all
snow
these
would
poles.
hold. Losing some of the
But the
materials.
poles can
the
be
windows.
small,
How
yeah,
did
like
they do
the
the
windows.
villagers?
So it's let's say
or
assume it's only 10.
Either they got
experimenting
on
on
making them
glass windows.
They had
on
no
a-
stress.
And if something
double
was
insulated
artificial
or-
and
double
made in a
insulated glasses
factory, so
from
be
the
it.
neighbors, from the
Um,
villagers,
we can always
or
build
between the next
other
houses later,
They
which are purely
10, 20,
made from stuff which is
30,
local.
40,
They made themselves.
60 glass. No, for that
They
you
were
need
happy
a
just to arrive here
70,
and to very
80,
strong
90.
oven, allowed to build houses,
and you need sand
to make
glass
enough
yourself.
food and enough money to last for another
So,
year. How to
yeah,
make
again.
so
lost
in the
is
next
about,
year, second year,
colored windows.
the
Yes,
interior
I see,
designs of
I'm
the
a
houses
little bit
were
lost here.
completed without
They built
lead,
themselves,
without
10
beds,
metal
diameter
tables
for one person should be
chairs
enough.
and pieces
So it
of
also
paper.
needs less poles.
Three,
No,
four,
it needs the
five.
same amount of poles,
As
but
they
not
like
so
to live
strong
on the
poles.
floor.
Me around
Yeah, there's so much to look
50
up.
minutes.
They
So
were
less
not,
gluing,
mostly
so
together
less
from here in the
heavy
forest
lifting.
to the
It's
city.
better like this.
Sitting
10,
on the
10
floor,
di-
lying on the
diameter
floor.
roundhouse is
Yeah.
big enough.
Leftovers
Doesn't
from
need
the
30.
bakery
30 is
and
too much.
eat some
So
of
they
them.
would
I
line
had
them
the
up alongside the
tuna
forest
sandwich
with
and
10
ham
sandwich meters in between them. I
Try
tell
working
myself
on
it's like
since
I
they
eat
said
them
only
both,
because
otherwise they go.
Oh,
Perhaps it's better
they
to
could
make them
part-time.
equally
fish
apart
spoils
from
in
each
the
other.
heat.
So
They
it was
were
already sometimes there,
having
and sharing with each other.
outside a
Make
lot
a square. Yes.
Yeah, like with two
What I want
ascende
to say
and
is,
perma on
I'm eating
one
sometimes
side
fish and meat if it's leftovers.
of the forest,
And I like it.
and
I like the taste
and
of meat and fish.
the other two,
But
Nurum
I'm not
Leao and
buying.
Luanche,
That's very
opposite
important. I'm
of
not
them,
buying.
in the in the corner.
Yeah.
Yes, in the corner.
Okay. So
So they would
I'm
face
back
each
to the
other
story.
like a square,
I think I
but
like this
also
audiobook
in the
idea.
back of them they had
Not yet
the forests.
into the
Each of them
real
had forest in it, but they would
mood of
face
it,
each other.
but
Yes.
so the 3 months of May, June, and July,
They
I
spent
have
gathering the
2 hours.
woods.
No, let's say 1.5,
They
which
set
I
them
can
up in
continue talking. So
August.
where was I? I was at the point where the 4 friends built their 10 diameter houses out of wood, fall wood they found in the 10 square miles forest adjoining their 2000 square meter property, or let's say not property, but donated land from a community which is free, sovereign, has no nation state, does not ask its members to pay taxes, and is mostly no tech. Some people have tractors and stuff, but most people do work with horses and having animals which they sadly eat, but each one to his own thing, you know. Ascende, Perma, Normleau, and Luanche were vegans. They were happy living from potatoes, beetroots, onions, carrots, garlic, yeast, microalgae. They growed in little ponds and little tube systems. They had a little tech, one can say, a little plastic stuff, but not much. No electricity. So it was mostly and fungi, dark grow rooms. They also made a simple house where they could grow mushrooms. They would accept some fertilizer at the beginning. In the first year, they accepted some fertilizer from farmers, or accepted. They went for it and to help start growing the mushroom culture. Later, they found ways how to treat their own feces and urine, so they can grow mushrooms and microalgae and stuff. So they were kind of finishing the houses with wood and earth and clay and straw and branches they found, some fresh, some old, some reed they bought or got donated. Till October 2019. In the winter they ate food they bought or they got donated or they have brought with. They didn't much. They read also. They were reading about from their books they took with from their previous lives, and they were cuddling with each other. Most often, the 4 of them were being intimate with each other. Homosexual, heterosexual, to 3, to 2, to 4. It was not a big thing for them. They were knowing each other so intimate now. They were happy with each other. But that's not the main part. The main part is that they were becoming a family. A family what cared for each other, what shared. They have the building of the houses have brought them together. Many evenings they were sitting around the fire, learning to know each other, talking of each other's feelings and what they wished for. And so they continued in the winter to cuddle a lot. They made they sometimes rotated. They went from one house to the other to spend time together in the evening and sometimes during the days. They were going in and out in each other's houses. It was very flexible and playful. No one had possessional rights to each other. No one felt like married with each other, but all the four were warming to each other and were happy to look forward to living the next 50 or 60 or 70 years on this patch. They were not much missing the internet or their students or ascende the writing or talking, making audiobooks. No, they were just happy. They were happy spending time together, talking with each other about dreams, about visions, about future wishes, how they wanted to become dolphins and albatrosses and mice, and how they wanted to shapeshift, to dive inside the Saturn without harming any of the Saturn and harming themselves. Teleportation, levitation. Oh, there were so much topics they could talk in the winter. They were not missing any of the TV or news or movies or music. They were singing themselves, dancing. They were making a hot tub out of burnt clay, perhaps, yeah, porcelain, I don't know, or a glass. I have no idea. The narrator has no idea how to do naturally, but perhaps they got donated a glass tube, a glass bath tube, or a clay bath tube, or a metal bath tube, where they could make, perhaps the metal is the best, because they could make fire under it. So to heat up or not fire directly under it, but they could make, for example, in a near boiler, they could and then they could mix it in. I don't know. There is with some plastic tubes they could transfer the water from the kettle boiling on the fire to the bath tube. They were basically enjoying their freedom, and sometimes people of the village came who also took a bath with them, a hot bath, or shared a meal with them. Sometimes they came to dance. And soon there were regularly 1 or 2 people of the village were with them, or sometimes 10 in the weekend. It was all funny and hilarious. People laughed a lot. They also laughed. They were smiling and they were making love to each other. So it was all happy, and it looked like that the transition to a no-tech society with no robots and no internet was not so difficult at all. It was actually such a relief not to have to spend so many hours a day in front of a eye-damaging screen. Even right now, when I'm walking in the woods and I'm talking to a microphone, it's already much better. The energy feels already much better. Also, I wanted to say before, when I came from the city to the woods, it felt like 100 times better to be in the woods, to not see anybody, to not see any buildings, ugly buildings, to not see any ugly cars, and it's really the forest is just beautiful. It's just beautiful to be in the forest. So, but back to the thing, to the settlers in the free village. So, the next year, the second year, 2020, more and more villages everywhere were joining in the free village movement, free the villages movement. They liberated themselves, declared themselves sovereign, and most of the nation states were going with it. They were not using their weaponry or military to bring them back. No, nearly none of the nation states were that crazy. They knew that they would have the people against them. And most of the nation states people were also happy to let the young ones and the experimental ones have their own spaces. So it was not it was a big thing, but it was not being resisted in 2020. So there was no resistance actually to villages leaving the nation states. And in 2020, Ascende and his friends were concentrating on the garden. And at the end of the season, the harvest in September, October was plentiful. Lots of potatoes, lots of onions, carrots, beetroot, pumpkins, maize, beans, tomatoes, paprikas. They were so having a bounty, and they were also being donated glass jars from the villagers to make preserves. There were always people were always coming for parties, and they brought food with. They brought some jars with. They brought music instruments with. It was like just one by one guest with another guest, and they brought stuff with, and they were asking, "Do you need any help? Can we bring you some firewood for the winter, for the next winter?" Which they gladly accepted. But in the third winter, they were trying to become a little more sustainable. They planned not to heat their houses so much, so they would have to spend more time with each other, cuddling up. So that was 2021. They had enough food. The repairs of the houses was not yet the repairs. The houses didn't yet need repairing. So 2021, after the third year, they stayed at this place with no technology. They spent most of the time. They didn't invite so much people for parties, and people were also less and less coming because the villagers, they also have their own thing now. They were inspired by what they did, but they sensed, the villagers sensed that the four of them were this winter in 2021 needing time for each other. They needed time to cuddle up, sometimes do a little sexy, but sexy was not the main part. The main importance was the four of them lying beside each other, holding each other's hand, and going on a journey inside their imaginations. Perhaps before such a session, they would talk to each other what they wanted to do. Like, let's today go to the moon. Let's make a walk on the moon. And they all have seen the moon in pictures. They were scientifically interested people. Also Perma was sometimes doing internet researches, and she also saw pictures of the moon, and she also saw the moon when it was full in the sky. So they did, for example, a moonwalk out of body, in their dream, in their meditation. And while they did that, they were also using less calories. So it was in the 2021 winter, it was when they started to slow down their metabolism. And they sometimes it happened that they went 2 days in this sleeping state. And sleeping, meditation, visualization, feeling each other's state, aided by some cannabis smoking before, or some cannabis eating before, and some mushrooms, some psilocybin drugging. So they could spend 2 days like this, no, not waking up, just doing this dreaming together. And when they woke up, they was hungry. They were hungry. Oh, they ate a lot. But slowly, they also learned how to slow their metabolism when they were awake. So, except for the time when they had to do work, work like gardening work, they ate a little bit more and their metabolism was a little bit faster. But basically they also could do that in a harmonious state, and they also learned to do that. So in summer 2020, they were eating less and less and making less and less parties, but spending more and more time with each other, dreaming. And slowly, they did not even had to project somewhere to go. Like they didn't have to agree on with each other where to go, but they would just find each other in each other's dream and each other's meditation without talking about it. They would just lie still beside each other and would, oh, there's the deer again. He's coming. I think he saw me. Is he seeing me right now? I'm greeting it. Hello, dear. Thank you. I'm going away from you, so not to make you scared. So I continue with the story. The story going that Ascende, Perma, Nurumleau and Lianshu, in their third year, 2020, were eating only half what they ate before and spending more and more time in dream. And they were not worried about the winter. They did accept a little bit of people donating them some firewood, but they planned this winter, the 2022, to only make fire when they woke up. So they planned the winter 2022 to spend 3/4 of the time in sleep meditation mode. Not eat so much, not move so much, just go out shitting and washing themselves a little bit. So that they couldn't, and drugging themselves up again, so they could dream some more. The idea behind this is they didn't want to stay farmers forever. They knew that. They didn't want to do that. They wanted to become independent of Mother Earth as soon as possible. So they projected, for example, a time span of maximum 20 years, for example, around 2040, they would wanted to quit Earth and visit the solar system, not in out of body, but with the body. So basically they planned ascension within 20 years. Their objective, their goal, the whole point of this exercise was to be ready in 2040 to travel to Saturn or the Moon or Mars or Venus, to travel near the Sun in the body, a body what is translucent, a body what is light,
So it was around
body what is
2024,
a body what is in their fifth year at this
transparent
patch,
and fluid, and can be
when
water, can be air, can
ascende,
be
Nurum Leao,
all kind of
mist,
and
where
it's just capable of
to see inside,
doing miracles.
codes
So
and
they
DNA
spent
of themselves.
2022.
They saw also the codes and DNA
in
the DNA
preparation
codes
for the
individuals
winter. They grew cannabis.
of what
They grew
ate
psilocybin
and
mushrooms.
what they smoked. What
So
was what
in
they
quite
ingested.
big amounts.
So they could
they
soon
be enough. They would have
because
enough
still being
resources
scientists
to go
from
really trip out far.
5 years before, or somehow scientists,
But also this
they were interested
would
to
change.
without
In
talking. They were
2023,
interested,
the winter,
all of them,
they already needed less
to
of the
become multi-species beings.
psychoactive
Ascende was writing some stuff
drugs because they
which
were
all of
already
the four was
spending
reading,
so
or
much
all the
time
other three was
inside
reading, and
each
also they
other,
made their own
not with their penises
thinkings about multi-species beings.
tongues and
They wanted to
stuff.
become
No, they spent time
photosynthetic. They wanted their skin
inside
to be
each
able
other
to
on a
synthesize
mental and emotional
sugars
plane.
from sunlight.
There was
Or
no more
synthesize, to
fighting.
produce
The
sugars
fighting was they didn't fight
sunlight.
anyway.
Convert
But
sunlight
The
into sugars,
disagreement or
like
the
a plant
rejection
leaf
of
does.
each other stopped in 2020 already. The
It
second
was
year
like
already.
in the
they were-
2024 when they spent
they
more
were
and more
stopping any
time
disagreements. So more
lying
from then
outside
on,
or
2020 to
standing outside
2023,
naked.
they were
They
just,
took off their
finding
clothes
each other more
in spring of 2024
the
and
same.
only occasionally.
Same. No?
Actually,
Basically,
before they were naked before in the
they
years
found
before.
each other to
Whenever
want
they
the
felt
same
like
and to
but
be the same.
every year become
So
like
there was no rejection.
more and more
there
they
was
were
no
naked.
difference.
So more and
that
more
made
the
it easy for
sunshine
them to travel
they
together
could use
into the
to
imaginary
sustain
worlds,
themselves. They were all
or
brown now.
into real worlds.
Every part
but
of the
out
body was
body.
brown. They
So
even showed
the
their
consumption was going
assholes
down.
to the sun,
Less and less
to
people
experience
came
to
to
experience
visit,
the warm sun shining
there
on
was
one's bottom,
one person a week
and
came,
then one's
and these persons
buttonhole.
were also interested in doing the same. So they sometimes
So they
came in
more and more were
because
becoming
they didn't
brown,
knock,
and
because they
then
knew that
in
if
2025,
the four were dreaming
after
together,
they
wouldn't
have played
wake up.
in their minds
So
and
they
with
just
their
went
emotions,
in and sat
with
beside or lay beside
mixing DNA of
the four. And
human and
sometimes
cannabis, human and
they would manage
mushrooms,
to join the dream.
human and tomato,
Sometimes not.
human
Sometimes
and
they just did their own meditation, which was
plants,
fine with the
and
four.
human and
The four were not adverse to this.
some snails. They have studied also the
So-
snails.
So it goes
Echlorotica,
on and on.
Echlorotica,
Each year they
which
had
was
to
able
consume
to,
less drugs,
which is
natural drugs,
able in
to get
2017
into
reality
their dreams
to
together.
line up alive
Each
microalgae
year
in their
they
guts.
ate less food,
So they too
so they had to spend
were
less time walking around and
establishing
gardening
in
and,
their
or
guts
gathering food.
life,
So more and more time
microalgae,
they spent
and they more and more got
eyes
translucent.
not
their
always
bodies
lying down, but sometimes they also stood
more
up
and more
and
transparent.
hugged each other or danced a
That
little
was
bit,
during 3 years,
inside or
like
outside.
2024 to
More and more
2027.
time they spent with
Their
their
bodies
eyes closed.
become first
But from
brown, then
inside out, they
light
could see
brown, then light
the outside
green,
world.
and slowly they were
Somehow they
there
closed their
were
eyes
all colors inside of
to
them, with yeast and the
live
live
more and
yeast
more
and
inside.
the live bacteria and the
But
live
also they could
microalgae,
feel the trees,
making
and
the most of
when they
their
were in the
colors.
forest together, they could feel the trees. They could really
So
internally see
in
what was outside,
2027,
because
the
they
four of
spent
them
so
were
much
not
time in the
anymore
winters in
gardening.
darkness.
They didn't need any more food
Out of
from
free will, they chose
plants.
that.
They were most of the
So
time eyes closed or sometimes opened,
their eyes were still
but
working,
seeing anyway,
but they just
inside out.
were not using them so much.
Everything what happens and becoming themselves. The cannabis. Some ascende
I make
was
a
growing
pause.
his hair into cannabis flowers. They grew mushrooms under their arms and on their arms, and Nurum Leao was yeah. I don't know so much the actual pictures. I don't see them right now, how they look like. I'm too much into reality right now, so I can't see it, or I'm not drugged up for this, where I could see that. I am actually smoking a little cannabis, only a little bit, but not enough for to see this kind of visions. Or I would perhaps need psilocybin for that, but I'm not doing that at the moment. I'm only doing very little cannabis at this moment, because I don't want to leave too much the mass reality. I'm quite happy also sometimes reading the newspaper and stuff, and having a discussion with another person about politics or real life matters, so I don't want to drug up too much. Also, I don't want to risk being harassed by police or something, or by other people, because they would think I'm too far out. So let's come back to the story. In 2027, the four of them was they have achieved their goal. At least they didn't need to farm anymore. They were just letting the plants grow like they wanted. They didn't need to harvest anymore. They were most of the times standing still or walking around slowly, little bit in the woods, little bit in the gardens, soaking up the sun. And in the winter, they were heating themselves from inside, having learned how to circulate body energy along the spine to cool and heat the body at will. That also came sometimes between 2024 and 2027. There is old exercises, thousands and thousands of years old, perhaps many thousand years old exercises of yogis who have done heating of the body from inside via spine channeling, by channels along the spine, circulating energy at will. So for the four of them, it came in one of their week-long dreams, like in 2024 to 2027, they were spending weeks and weeks in these dream-like states, where they only occasionally at something, or inside the dream. They were not even waking up for eating, or eating some cannabis flowers, or some leaves, or some nettle leaves, or some picking a tomato, or a berry, or picking up a nut in the forest. They were most constantly with their eyes closed, seeing everything what is going on around them, but mostly spending time in virtual worlds, in imaginary worlds, where they mixed their DNA with all kinds of plants and animals, which just came inside of them. Like they were dreaming about dolphins, how they would swim together in a school of 2,000 dolphins on the sea. That was, for example, was one of their dreams. So they learned from the dolphins how to move. And sometimes the villagers came and they saw the four of them lying on the ground, doing movements which flippers do, like dolphins do. Some were a bit estranged at the beginning, but then later, when some of them joined them and lay down, and also the strong field of the dream was also entering them, they were also becoming very easily part of this school. Like, even without them knowing that the four of them, even without the visitors knowing that the four of them were dreaming to be a part of a dolphin school, the dream was so strong, their bodies were so much in harmony, that the field it generated was easily to become part of with the villagers. So it's more and more people came to visit the four dreamers. They were noticing them not to eat so much. They only noticed them perhaps once a week or once a day, to eat tiny bits of food. They saw their skins becoming light brown, then light green, then translucent. They saw how they lined up microalgae inside their guts, and by the ones who joined them, the visitors who joined them, they knew also that they have reached photosynthetic state of existence, which was very impressive. So this news got out, and people from all over the world came to join the dreamers. So soon there were hundreds of people every day walking around, and some of them were eating of the garden, some of them were doing the garden work to eat from it, and smoking cannabis, eating cannabis, looking after the mushroom plantations. And sometimes, that's a funny thing, that's a funny thought, sometimes in 2028, when Ascende and the three others were growing cannabis flowers out of their heads as kind of hairs, and mushrooms growing on their bodies, they were inviting the others to eat from them, to eat from their hairs, to eat from their bodies, produce mushroom. So that was funny, but it's also very intimate, because the people, the followers who joined them in 2028, who were referring to them as kind of masters, without them having looked for any of this, no? They were just doing their own thing. But people came and wanted to participate. So they let them. And they even offered them moksha. They offered them a blessing through material parts of them. So that was that's perhaps the end, huh? From this story. It's 4:30. I have still some more time, so I could go on here to say that the cannabis hairs and the mushroom, the four grew on their skin and on their head, was allowing the other ones to join the same dream, where people can edit their DNA at wish. Thinking of becoming a rabbit would open a window into the rabbit's DNA, where one could easily compare it inside with visualization, with data visualization. One could compare it with one's own DNA, and from there one could mix it together, yeah, like intuitively, like click, clack, clock, but inside, yeah, not needing a computer for it, but inside one could mix the DNA together, and soon afterwards one would become a rabbit. One would the body would change. Yeah, that would be perhaps 2030. After 13 years since the arrival in Notech, the four of them could transmit knowledge through their flowers they grew in their hairs, and mushrooms they grew on their skins. They could transmit the knowledge in with these flowers and mushrooms, the knowledge what allowed anyone to form one's own body at will, at wish. So people who wanted to become a lemon just had to think about the lemon, then the DNA code would be appearing before their inner eye. They would see their own DNA being visualized, and they could see where the two DNAs could be linked together. They played with it like visually, and somehow it fit together. Yeah, somehow it gave an artistic mix. So they woke up perhaps after a week, after having eaten a flower bud, a cannabis flower bud. It's not cannabis anymore. It's like a ascende, leau, perma, luanche flower bud, or the four dreamers mushroom from their bodies. After having eaten one of these or two of these, people would be able to join this level of existence for a week, and after that they would wake up and find their bodies being changed like this. So if they spent days and days on being a lemon, or days and days on being a banana, or days and days on being a rabbit, they would become this lemon, banana, rabbit. 2030. No, not 2030. 2030. 2030. How to say? Well, about 1,000 people on the planet were able to live from sunlight and to mix their DNA at wish to become this or that animal or this or that plant. Some were experimenting with becoming fire, water, some becoming earth, some becoming wood. There were all kinds of experiments going on. People people not always stayed with Ascende, Perma, and Luanche and Nurum Leao, although the village did give them more land. They saw all these people, these tourists coming, and they were happy. They were saying, wow, that is something. The people coming here to learn from the four dreamers how to eat sunlight and how to shapeshift their bodies. So they could transmit their knowledge through giving off flower buds and mushroom heads grown from their own bodies. So they were not at least afraid or like, oh, these are shapeshifters, oh, careful. No, they were really happy because they found themselves also being attracted to a vision where people did not need to farm the land, where nobody needed to cut a plant, where nobody needed to talk with mice so that they wouldn't eat all of the produce. No, everybody wanted to, not everybody, but many people were happy to see the four dreamers becoming photosynthetic. And then there are also the people who drugged themselves up on the four dreamers, body mushroom and cannabis flowers. So they were giving more and more land for the hundreds of people who came to stay with the four dreamers. And some of them went away, like perhaps the most of them went away after they have learned all they could learn, or most of they could learn. They could not learn everything. For that they needed to also make their own space with fellows to live constantly like this, and that's what they did. They went out back to their villages. Some were free villages, some closed villages, but mostly they went into free villages and were also being granted the same guest right like the four dreamers became. The four dreamers got donated with in 2019. So in 2030 there was 1,000 or perhaps 10,000, even 100,000 could be possible, depending on how quick the people learned. I mean, perhaps it took 1 week after ingesting the four dreamers cannabis flowers and psilocybin mushroom heads to learn the same what it took for the four dreamers. Nearly 13 years to practice, to learn. It took 2019 to 2030. That's 11 years. 11 years it took Ascende, Perma, Nurum Leao, Luanche to perfect their knowledge, to learn without internet, without DNA sequencing, without genetically editing with a machine, without the visualization on a tablet or on a screen, but all inside, all done inside. It took them so long to learn this and produce cannabis flowers, or this was not cannabis, to produce their own flowers and mushrooms which they could seed the knowledge into the world. So yeah, from there on one can imagine that this 10,000 people or 100,000 people what have visited the four dreamers in between 2025 and 2030, that it took them not so long to 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 make their own communities to 4 to 6 to 10 people, where they continued the work of the 4 dreamers. They became also dreamers, and they also started to grow mushrooms and flowers on them to seed the knowledge to even more people. So it took another 10 years to 2040, when the knowledge how to change one's DNA inside to rearrange one's bones and one's body structures, one's flesh. It took humanity till 2040 to understood all this. So everyone could understood all this, and then you can imagine what happened, no? Like, no, you can't imagine. Perhaps you can. Perhaps then 2040, the animals seeing all this, people using less and less food, people no more hunting them, people leaving acres alone to become wilderness again, people retreating to very little spaces. So the animals too were starting to nibble on the human beings, which were radiating of happiness and were walking in the woods slowly and radiating pure happiness. So they were nibbling too, and then they also started editing themselves with the plants, all the while enjoying that they didn't get trampled on anymore. So because levitation was soon after that, soon after 2040, they found the keys to levitation, and around 2041 they found the keys to teleportation, and many billions, like 2 billions or 3 billions people left the planet, and some animals with them left the planet for the moon, for the Mars, for Venus, for Saturn, to experience life without oxygen, to breathe, to take on the cosmic radiation as a food. So there the story ends somehow, no? Or I can't imagine anymore. Perhaps I can imagine a little more by saying that once they found themselves being free from having to stay with the earth because of food and stuff, and because of not being able to fly, once they were able to fly, to levitate, to ascend with their bodies into the orbit and beyond the orbit to other planets, teleport themselves, they experimented with melting their egos. They were already melting a lot of times during the 11 years before, yeah? Like when they were dreaming together, they felt each other's identities, but they will have no arguments on who is wrong or right or whatever. Like, they were all having the same goal of becoming a star traveler, a traveler between the stars, which nourishes itself from sunlight and the cosmic radiation, without needing to dig up the earth and put a seed in it and defend one plant against the other. No. That's not the reason why people are here. No? Human beings are not meant to farm or to kill animals to eat. No, the whole eating through stomach is not ideal. It's far from ideal. Yeah, Even if human beings find joy in taste, it's much better to imagine being a deer than to kill a deer. It's much more delicious to become the lemon than to squish it out and drink its juice mixed with water. It's much more pleasant to imagine how one swims in a school of dolphins, or one swims in a school of sardines, than to kill a sardine and eat it. Always the same, no? It's always the same. That's the goal. So in 2020, no, 2041, 2041, in 2041, 90% of people were knowing how to do that, how to become the animals they liked, how to become the taste they liked, how to jump like the deer, how to swim like a shark, how to fly like an albatross, how to sing like a bird. And there, I think, yes, yeah, it ends, I think, but then it can go further with the ego melting. Like, why need 10 or 100 or a million or 10 billions egos when all can be melted into one or two or three or four? So, group thinking. Now, I'm not so much interested into group thinking at this moment. So I leave that, and I think I finish here. It's 10 to 5, and I think I'm quite happy with that audiobook I created. Yeah, I don't know if I should write today. Not necessarily. I think I've done enough work. No, not work. It's like I have done enough creation by inventing this storyline, and I think it's finished for the moment. I can leave it at that. I can always make another variation of it or go into detail more, but one would say, Ascende would say, Andreas would say, even perhaps the Ma collective, the MMA collective, Mary, my Mary, and Ma would perhaps agree. Yes, you done that well. You, Ascende Andreas, have believed in yourself this much that you could talk freely, that your mind could concentrate on one storyline, and you didn't needed proof of it so much as to see it before your eyes in writing to continue the story, what is quite a feat. And you even didn't needed another pair of eyes or ears of another person which would listen to it and would follow your narration. But this story is not so funny. It's quite serious how I'm talking about it. Yeah, it's not like really hilarious. I'm I'm still too much into concepts and into several things I want to research before becoming funny or humorous. It doesn't matter. I could sing a bit. I could sing a bit. I could sing da ba da ja ba da ba. All I want to go ba shiwa. Etavani awashmahu bawati balu etaram. Gokunanga deshapa maku uakni ja uram daye. I'm dancing, I'm singing of a future, where I love, where I live, as ascende with Nuum Leao, Perma and Luanche, Perma and Nuum Leao, and ascende, the four dreamers, what offer in 2030 their fellow beings, mushrooms and cannabis growing on their bodies. Growing cannabis flowers, growing mushroom psilocybin on my body in 2023. Oh no, in 2030. Growing mushrooms on my body, growing cannabis flower in my hair, growing cannabis flowers in my hair. Ascende, ascende, without technology, without technology, knowing everything from inside, Pasha Pashunati, Kundu Kunduresha, Divaita, everything from inside. Wappa Wappa, the four dreamers would get land donated to them so they could plant their vegan gardens. They would build some houses out of fallen wood and branches and earth and hemp bags and flax linen bags. They would build their houses and they would eat some food. But every year, they would eat less of the food. They would eat more of the cannabis and eat more of the psilocybin. So finally, in 1 year, 2025, after 5 years of being vegan farmers, without technology, without internet, without any blockchain, without caring what's going on in the world, the four dreamers would arrive at the state where they only needed a little bit of food and a little bit of drugs, like 1 gram of cannabis flowers a day, 1 gram of psilocybin mushrooms a day, and 10 grams of grains, and 10 grams of vegetables or 100 vegetables. So they learned to eat less, and while eating less, they could spend more time in dreaming state, dreaming about walking on the moon, dreaming about visiting the sun. Bawadawa, the four dreamers would visit the sun together. They would live inside their dreams on the sun, with the sun, inside the sun. They would learn from her in these out-of-body travels. They would learn how she fusions. They would learn how they can heat their bodies like the sun does heat herself. They would learn how to make cold fusion inside themselves. And in 2026, they were free of having to eat. The four dreamers were becoming something like suns, something like understanding the rays of sun and also using their inner light to ignite the eternal fire of the soul. Along the spine went cooling and warming energies, so they soon learned how to teleport, learned how to channel the fusion energy into teleportation. Dap dee bap da bap ba da. And so on. They grew mushroom flowers on their bodies to give prasadam to all other beings. The animals, the humans, learned from them by eating their fruits. And soon billions of people were teleporting around. The earth was left as a paradise. Mostly beings were living there, sustaining from themselves from the light. Not much killing was going on in 2027. Within 2030, almost all beings were living from inner and outer sunlight. Inner light, outer light, all the heat inside each atom, all it could be used, all the power could be used without using the stomach, without using materia itself. The beings could find ways how to understand the DNA, and so they didn't need to consume other beings, because they understood how their cells were built, and they could repair their DNA with visualizations constantly, so there was no hunger anymore. Oh, I should write that down.